I'm Rob Licuria, Senior Editor at Gold Derby, here with Jon Sarge Schneider, who is nominated this year for Outstanding Cinematography in a Reality Program for Season 14 of the sensational RuPaul's Drag Race. First of all, Jon, congratulations on your Emmy nomination.
Thank you very much, Robert. Appreciate it. Thank you very much.
You must be super excited. How did you find out that you have just scored Emmy nomination number 4?
I was, let's see, let me think. Where were we when that happened? I believe we were on set. And yeah, we were getting ready to shoot Queens coming into the workroom on season 15.
Wow.
And then the announcement came about over our little communication devices that we wear every time we shoot. One of the camera assists, one of our camera techs had come across communications and told us about it. Like, holy cow, did it again.
Yes, because like you share your nomination with a really amazing kick-ass group of people in the team. Does it ever get old for you all, or is it something that you're just hoping will happen again and again and again? What's that feeling like?
It never gets old. That first time we were absolutely gobsmacked. We couldn't believe it, especially we knew that the show was becoming big while we were shooting season 10. After the jump onto VH1 from season 9, and just all the attention that the show had started to get. And I don't know where I was going with this. No, it never gets old.
Getting this year the show has 8 nominations. And Drag Race has won competition program 4 years in a row. Will it win number 5? Most possibly, who knows? And then RuPaul herself won the last 6 Emmys in a row for reality host. So like, what does it mean to the team, particularly behind the camera, that this show has been so enthusiastically embraced by the Academy and of course by worldwide audiences?
It fills us with a lot of pride. We do a lot, in 2 days, for an episode, there's a lot packed in. And we typically have the same crew returns season after season. We just don't want to, nobody wants to leave the show. It's so much fun to work on. It's, we've gotten really tight as a unit amongst the crew ourselves. And then to be allowed to shoot content such as this and to tell stories that we're able to tell, so many of the stories that we witness in the workroom, we're blown away by what we're given to shoot from the queens. The stories are so compelling that the talent, the talent alone is amazing.
Yeah,
they are. I've said it before, I think a couple of times, like even on the show, that they're superheroes. They have superpowers. It's incredible what they're able to do. And then, so the talent alone is one thing. And then to witness these stories that they each have, their unique individual stories. It's on some shows as a camera op, here we go, we're shooting this again. We're doing this again. Oh, this person's getting into a fight again, or this person's doing this again. But on this show, we're constantly amazed by the content that we get and that the stories that the queens give us to tell.
I wonder, given the current, cultural landscape, I'll put it that way, put it nice and soft, because the show is really doing such wonders for the drag community and the LGBTQ plus community in general, because it shines a light on these really beautiful people who have really compelling stories. So not only do we get the glitz and the glamour and the fun, I think for me that the best thing about RuPaul's Drag Race is it's so funny and we just laugh every week when we watch it together as a family. But that compelling, tell me what you think about that.
I've had audio personnel tell me to try to keep it down because they hear me over the Queen's microphones, like laughing, and I can't stop, you know?
They're so funny.
Yeah, the more that you try to hold in the laughter, the more the camera tends to say, just let it go. You know, don't try to stifle it, just let it go. And it winds up being sort of a thing, you know, it's the Queen's, you know, for the Queens, I've discovered having an audience helps. And so the less of an automaton we are as camera ops, and the more we open ourselves up to them, you know, it works conversely. They open themselves up as well, and if they feel more comfortable with us. And
That's brilliant.
Think,
and
yeah, I think that's one part that inadvertently, you know, allows more story to come up, and you know, they feel more comfortable with us because we're just amazed by them, you know.
Yeah, they have this inbuilt audience to kind of play to.
Yeah,
it never really occurred to me that, because you know, a lot of shows like this would be actually probably very dry when the cameras aren't rolling, and you know, it's very technical. I have a feeling on this show that these queens are really able to go really big, and they need to, because that's the part of the show. And so you guys behind the camera are just either laughing your heads off, or maybe you know, you're almost in tears because you're witnessing these beautiful people really come out of their shell and kind of express themselves authentically. How great is that? That is such a gift.
It is a gift. You know, and every one of us knows how lucky we are to be able to be on this show. You know, every single one of us. And I feel bad, like you know, if you go on to a different show throughout the year, whenever Drag Race isn't shooting, you know, and you work with a new crew and you play the game of kind of like, oh, what have you worked on? What do you usually do? And then every time I meet somebody new and I mention I work on Drag Race, they go, how do I get on the show? Who do I need to talk to? Get me on the show. I was like, good luck, you know.
Line up, get in line. So much fun. That's fascinating. You know, we were talking offline about some of the, you know, there's some beautiful shots that the team that you all work in are able to capture. For example, during the Lollapalooza, I remember all over social media, people were just gasping over this incredible shot of Lady Camden in the foreground and Bosco in the background. And it's just one example of when they're lip syncing. There is so much that you all need to capture, particularly, you know, you as camera operator. I can't even imagine how you do it properly without maybe screwing it up, but you always seem to make sure that you capture it all beautifully. Talk me through that process and the pressure of making sure that you don't want to miss anything because there's so much to capture.
Yeah. Well, a lot of that is due in part to our director, Nick Murray, and our director of photography, Jake Kerber. You know, they, I guess they put us in a position where we feel comfortable. We know, we know what we need to get. And, you know, we have these basic elements that we know that we need to get, but we're also given the freedom to explore it a bit. If we see something, you know, because, you know, and it's also the fact that we're all so invested in it. Mm-hmm. You know, we know the basics, we know what needs to be covered for the edit, but then we also know their stories, and we know what to look for when a queen says something. We know their stories and we know who's going to react to that. Right. So we're always sniffing for that reaction. You know, and it's taught early on in doing this that it's important to remember that you can't hear a reaction. So we're always on the hunt, you know, for those things when we're telling the story. It's just a huge part of telling the story. But you know, while the queens are performing, there's also a part as a camera operator where, you know, we've done it enough and we know the technical aspects of it, that it's a second nature thing. And we get caught up in the story and what's happening, and it allows us a freedom to find those moments, because we want to know as well. But just that freedom to play around a little bit within the parameters of what we know we need to get, and just feeling it, because the energy on that main stage every time is you sort of get surrounded by it, and once you trust yourself and your fellow ops enough to know that we got it, then you can explore a little bit more within that, and then find those moments. Yeah.
That never really occurred to me, actually. I'm really glad you raised it, because for the layperson, we're immersing ourselves in the story and in the spectacle. And of course, the reactions are going to be critical to the emotional weight of what we're watching. And it never occurs to me. I just think it's some automatic fairy that just gets it done. I don't realize there are human beings behind there who are knowing what they have to do, like you.
Oh, yeah.
That's
I'm sorry to interrupt. This is the thing. Once I get talking about Drag Race, I can't stop. It's ridiculous. We get so invested in all of their stories. We know who's going to react whenever so and so says something snarky or just off the cuff. We know that Daya is going to think something about that, or we know that Camden is going to have some sort of reaction to that.
Absolutely. I'm looking at the other shows in the category, and I noticed that unlike them, RuPaul's Drag Race doesn't really need to worry about external outdoor location shots. It's pretty much all in studio.
Oh, right.
But for people who don't quite understand cinematography and camera work on a reality show, it's not always about just landscapes, because you guys have to deal with the most colorful show on TV, very busy frame that you're capturing, getting the lighting and the angles right to capture all the glitter and glitz and glamour and drama and tears and laughter, and then make it super emotional, working obviously with the amazing editors to make sure the pacing is right. So would you say that what's the most challenging aspect of the cinematography on this show?
I guess the most challenging aspect would be to capture that energy. That there are moments that are so big and so overwhelming while you're there in person and you're seeing it, and you just hope that you got the right angle to really convey to the people sitting at home or watching it at the club that they get just how big this was in the moment. I remember it was the season 9 finale when Sasha Velour did the reveal with the rose petals.
Yeah,
that theater erupted. It absolutely erupted. And when I watched the episode, as big as it was on the episode, it was so much bigger in the theater.
Yeah.
And so I always kind of keep that in the back of my mind whenever we're doing a talent show or a rusical, because sometimes I'll go handheld at the foot of the stage and try to capture the largesse of it, and I always keep that in the back of my mind, like, make it big,
make it go big or go home. There are so many highlights from season 14, like the tribute to the 60s girls groups, Moulin Rouge, the soap opera, A Daytona Wind with that retro aesthetic. I reckon something so simple like Kerry Colby's lip sync to Play when she wore that Versace J-Lo dress. I mean, that was iconic. And of course, the fights that Jasmine Kennedy seemed to always be featured in. What was your highlight from season 14 when looking back on it?
There's 2 I can think of, and they're both 3, 4. They keep coming up. there was one instance where the queens were recreating their workroom entrances. This was, I think, season 2 or season 3, and Willow Pill re-entered the workroom and said her colostomy bag broke, and I laughed. I couldn't stop laughing. I had to put the camera down and walk away because I was crying. I was laughing so much.
So funny.
And it's absurd. This is happening. And then another one, and I just watched the finale in Vegas when Willow and Camden were lip syncing, and at the end when they both come down the walkway or the runway to the foot of the stage, and I was there in the audience doing handheld, and when they both came out and Camden did the splits, and that floored me, and I just watched it maybe 2 hours ago, just rewatching it, and it absolutely floored me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So talented. They're just so talented. Like, I do my back out when I walk up the stairs, and to watch these people do the death drops and the splits and God knows what else. They're so fit. I'm slightly jealous, actually.
Superheroes, Robert. Superheroes.
They're superheroes. You're right. So true. My final question, I just wanted to go back to season 9, obviously, because a lot of people remember you. You're not just some old camera guy. You are a little bit of a celeb on the show because of the makeover where Peppermint turned you into Wintergreen. That is such an unforgettable experience. I can imagine you will never forget doing that for the rest of your life. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yes. I think you were dead on with that. Absolutely.
Yeah, talk me through your highlight memory from, actually coming from behind the camera where you are supposed to be and actually being in the spotlight for once.
It was terrifying. The whole thing was absolutely terrifying. I had this checklist because they actually asked me 2 weeks before we shot the episode if I would do it, and my initial reaction was no, absolutely not. And it wasn't for fear of getting into drag. It was terror that I would say something stupid on a show that I absolutely loved, and I knew it would never go away. And then Nick, our director, and the challenge producer of that episode were asking me, and they're pleading their cases and everything, and I sort of like tuned them out, and I just started kind of zoning out, and I was thinking, if I'm this scared of doing something that's not going to harm me or anybody else physically, then I probably need to do it to kind of get over that fear. And then I also thought, at that point I had been working for 10 years as a camera operator, shooting people at their best and their worst, and it was kind of time to pay the piper. And then I also thought, if I understand what it's like in front of the lens a little bit more as the subject, then that might inform my work behind the lens a little bit more. Because I think you have to tell a story well, you have to cover your subject with a good amount of dignity, as opposed to, they signed up for it, which is this thought that some camera operators, jaded camera operators tend to get. So standout moments, I think were, I was terrified before we did our lip sync performance to Click Clack, and I remember being behind the runway wall with Peppermint on one side, and me on the other behind the wall, and she's looking at me, and I'm terrified, And she just mouths to me, just give him attitude. Just give him attitude. And I'm there, deer in the headlights. Okay. And I, so we appear in that archway.
Yeah.
And I look and I just give this kind of expression like, I have somewhere else to be.
Yes. So sassy.
Yeah.
So sassy.
And once I saw Rue and Michelle's expressions, their expressions of shock, I was like, okay, I got him.
Yeah.
I got him. And so I was just cunty the whole time.
So good.
And I think that's kind of the key to Wintergreen is she's got somewhere else to be.
She's really got, like, she's doing this just to keep you quiet, but she really has better things to do. And Kesha's screaming, before I let you go, that's for me, I think you've just reminded me, the highlight of the show is the runways, when I hear all the snarky comments from the judges. And when Mama Roo starts laughing her head off, it's like a drug to me. It's like a drug to me, man. Yeah.